Well, good afternoon. I want to welcome all of you to our meeting of the Assembly Committee on Privacy and Consumer Protection. And today we have a total of 9 bills, and 5 of them are on proposed consent. Let's start with our first author, Assemblymember Gordon. Would you like to present your bill? I believe you have 2 bills, and first one is 2623, which you have a co-author, Assemblymember Irwin. Welcome. Is that the one you'd like to take up first, Mr. Gordon?
I think that makes the most sense.
Sure, absolutely. You may begin.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to be here with my joint author, Ms. Irwin. Our state has many valuable resources which make it a prime target for cyber attacks of ever-increasing sophistication and impact. Attacks originate largely with organized crime, domestic hackers, and foreign governments. Such attacks can have severe consequences, ranging from information theft to control of critical infrastructure. The California State Auditor's Report, High Risk Update, Information Security, stated that cybersecurity weaknesses leave some of the state's sensitive data vulnerable to unauthorized use, disclosure, or disruption. Earlier this year, this committee held a joint oversight hearing with the Assembly's Select Committee on Cybersecurity to assess whether California is prepared to defend itself against modern cyber attacks. California does invest in cybersecurity and has also been a recipient of substantial federal Homeland Security funding. However, the hearing held identified several key shortfalls, including a lack of knowledge of how much money various state agencies and entities spend on cybersecurity. Lack of oversight makes it challenging to address vulnerabilities, and it makes it difficult to identify where departments might be overspending, where additional resources might be needed, and how our investment as a state compares to other large companies or other states. Assembly Bill 2623 would implement a requirement for state agencies to report cybersecurity spending annually to the California Department of Technology. Currently, these agencies report information technology costs using the same mechanism. AB 2623 has no registered opposition, and I'm proud of my joint authorship with Assemblymember Jackie Irwin, and I would invite her to add to my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon, Chair and members. As the analysis points out, state spending on cybersecurity is an issue of immediate importance. The need for standardized budget reporting under this bill has already been shown by the request for increased funding and staff for cybersecurity this year. Without knowing how much we're currently spending, there is no way for the legislature to consider how effective the new spending is and how security needs of one state department compare to another. This bill would provide valuable data that the state needs in order to allocate resources effectively and improve the cybersecurity posture of the state going forward. AB 2623 will increase transparency and security, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you very much. Before we go to additional witnesses, let's establish a quorum. Madam Secretary.
Chow.
Here.
Chow here. Wilk. Baker. Here. Baker here. Calderon. Chang. Cooper. Here. Cooper here. DeBobne. Gatto. Here. Gatto here. Gordon.
Here.
Gordon here. Lowe. Here. Lowe here. Olson. Here. Olson here.
Now let's go to additional witnesses. All those in support, please step up. Opposition? Seeing and hearing none, let's bring it back to the committee. Questions or comments from committee members?
Move the bill. Second.
Bill has been moved and seconded. Any additional comments or questions? You may close.
We respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Very good. Thank you very much again, and I want to thank the authors for bringing forward this bill. This bill addresses both the issue of transparency and accountability, as you mentioned, in the cybersecurity space. And based on the recent oversight hearing has been mentioned, I think we need more information. I want to also to work with you as well as other members of the cyber community to make it a better a system for all of us. Without the information, we simply can't make informed decisions. So whether it is a critical infrastructure or a DMV record, whatever the case may be, I think we just need to know where the money is being spent and how much we need. So I want to thank you again for the bill. So with that, Madam Secretary, please call roll.
The motion is to pass to appropriations. Chow.
Aye.
Chow, I. Wilk. Baker.
Aye.
Baker, I. Calderon. Chang. Cooper.
Aye.
Cooper, I. DeBobne. Gatto. Gatto, I. Gordon.
Aye.
Gordon, I. Lowe. Lowe, I. Olson. Olson, I.
Wilk, aye also.
Wilk, I.
Congratulations, your bill is out. Thank you very much. I believe you have a second bill, Mr. Gordon. That's AB 2688.
Yes, thank you.
Anytime you're ready, you may begin.
Hold on. Got it. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. The confidentiality of one's health information is a fundamental belief in our society. Information that comes from a provider of health care is protected by federal legislation, such as HIPAA, and by state laws, such as California's Confidentiality of Medical Information Act. However, health information that does not come from a provider of health care is not protected in any way at all, and that presents a risk for the consumer. Commercial health monitoring programs, as defined in this bill, would include wearable devices as well as applications that utilize user-inputted data to help consumers manage their own health when not under the direction of a provider of health care. The current universe of such devices include well-known products such as the Fitbit, but also lesser-known devices such as an iPhone-compatible brainwave monitor and a Bluetooth-enabled early pregnancy test. Such devices and applications are a powerful tool for empowering individuals to manage their own health and wellness. But it is important to safeguard consumers' information when it is in personally identifiable form. AB 2688 would ensure consumers' privacy by enacting common sense restrictions on the sharing of personally identifiable information. This includes both information from wearable devices and user-inputted health information in apps. Under AB 2688, operators would not be able to share the consumer's personally identifiable information with outside third parties without the consumer's very intentional and voluntary opt-in authorization. Such an authorization must include why such a disclosure would be necessary and to whom it would be made. Lastly, there's an increasing trend of employers providing health monitoring devices to employees to promote wellness and fitness and to bring down healthcare costs for the employer. This is a win-win scenario for both employers and employees, but requires significant protections to ensure that health information is not used against an employee. AB 2688 would also provide these protections. AB 2688 garnered some opposition when first introduced. Since then, we brought together a multi-stakeholder group to strengthen the bill, adding a number of consumer protections meant to solidify the user authorization component of the policy, and some changes to clarify elements related to entities already compliant with CMIA and HIPAA. Of amendments that were submitted to us by stakeholders in time to make the committee's deadline, we were able to agree on nearly all of them. Several groups have subsequently removed their opposition. We thank those groups and the diligent committee staff for their engagement in improving this bill. We recognize that some groups remain in opposition to the bill as currently amended, and I am committed to continuing to work with them should this bill move forward. I would respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you very much. You have any witnesses in support? Please step forward. Go ahead.
Not actually in support, but clarifying. Connie Delgado with the California Hospital Association. We want to thank the author and his staff. We did have an opposed position on the bill, and in its current position, we are neutral. Thank you
very much. Next, please.
Good afternoon. Danielle Kando Kaiser here on behalf of both Privacy Rights Clearinghouse and Electronic Frontier Foundation. First off, want to thank the committee staff and the author's office for the many hours that they've spent discussing this bill. We look forward to working further with you.
Thank you. Next. Opposition. Please come to the witness table.
Opposition?
You still support? Or In between? Tweener?
Becca Kramer, ACLU of California. We're in the in-betweener category. We very much appreciate the author's office working with us to address many of our concerns and their ongoing commitment to work with us as the bill moves forward to address our further concerns.
Thank you very much. Let's now turn to opposition.
Sure.
Welcome.
Good afternoon. Richard Holliver with the Consumer Federation of California. And our position is opposed unless amended. And I do want to start by saying we are in total agreement with the intent of the bill and believe that it's very, very important that this information be given strong privacy protections. And we do want to thank the author and his staff and the committee for working on a number of improvements. There's no question that the bill has gone through some iterations that have improved substantially some of the safeguards. We still have some concerns that we've had a lot of experience over the years with various privacy laws and with how courts interpret those laws, and that's why I guess you could say we want to be very precise about how a bill is written to make sure that it ends up being interpreted by the industry and by the courts as it was intended. So our concerns are in a couple of areas. First, the information that this bill covers as health information is identical to information currently covered under Confidentiality of Medical Information Act as medical information, except for one thing, and that is the source of the information. So if it comes from a CMIA-covered entity, it falls under a very protective regime of privacy rules that have very strong enforceable sanctions. If the source of that information is outside of CMIA, even though it's the identical information, it would fall under the regulations of AB 2688. We would much prefer to build on existing strong protective law, which, as the bill was initially introduced, was in addition to CMIA. We do have concerns about the way that the opt-in authorization is written, and there are other examples in various codes, including the insurance code, the banking code, and even CMIA, that are much more precise in making it clear that unless a consumer takes specific voluntary steps to say, I am authorizing sharing, and that those steps are removed in time from the setting up or use of the product, that it could easily end up being mixed in with the setup, whether it's a Fitbit, an Apple Watch, or another device. So the bill does begin to address that by saying it needs to be on a separate page or form. But if I'm setting up a device and I'm scrolling through on my cell phone, for example, a very lengthy set of disclosures, and nobody reads them because of how hard they are, how dense they are to read. If it's a separate form, and if it has some default setting that says, I agree, we believe that that could constitute approval in the current way the bill is written. And I think that can be fixed. I think that's something that is fixable, but that really should be spelled out very precisely. And then the last major point that we have has to do with the enforcement. Under CMIA, there are very strict penalties as well as damages available for willful sharing without authorization, penalties for willful sharing, damages for negligent sharing or exposure of information. And those are strong deterrents. They really do have an effect on the industry. And I know that if you talk to health providers, they feel like they've been sort of read the riot act by their own IT departments and others about how crucial it is to safeguard that information. We would like to see some greater parallel types of sanctions to make it clear it's the same information, it's a different source, but if the content is the same, this is highly sensitive information. So we hope the committee will give favorable consideration to those concerns that we have. And we thank the author for working with us.
Thank you very much. Additional witnesses in opposition to the bill, please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, John Doherty with TechNet. I did want to come up after the opposition. We are not in opposition. The most recent amendments drew some concern from our members. I've circulated a letter to the author and everybody about what those are. I do want to, we're not asking for a no vote today. We've worked really well with the Assembly member. We trust that he'll continue to do that. But I did want to say that it's going to be a challenging issue. We very much value the privacy rights that are being addressed, but the consumer experience and the workability of the technology is also important. And so our concerns may be coming from the opposite area of the rest of the opposition. So I know that the Assembly member has his work cut out for him, and we hope to continue to work with him on it.
Thank you very much. Next witness, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. Anthony Sampson with the California Chamber of Commerce. Also have no position on the bill, but associate our comments similar to those concerns laid out by Mr. Doherty, and appreciate all the authors done to this point, and we look forward to working together moving forward.
Thank you much. Next witness. Seeing none, let's come back to the committee. Questions or comments from committee members? Ms. Baker, go ahead.
Thank you. Member Gordon, I wonder if you could address the issue about the CMIA and fitting it within that provision first, and I have a second question after that.
Sure. So CMIA was written to protect the patient-provider relationship. So it's really the relationship between the healthcare provider, typically the physician, but it could be other allied healthcare professionals, and the patient. In this situation, what we're talking about is information held by the patient. It's not necessarily shared in relationship with a medical provider. It's shared in relationship with the developer of the application, the developer of the device. Fully aligning presents a problem because it would essentially say that the application creator is now a medical professional. So we're trying to find a way to provide the highest level of privacy protection, and not sure that that we can find a way to completely align it with CMIA because of that relationship that is with the medical provider. There may be some ways that we can do that. If I've got a Fitbit on and I give permission for that information to go to my medical provider, then it would fall under CMIA. But if I say that the device maker has access to that information and can share it with third parties, then I can't really figure out how to get it under CMIA. So I'm trying to walk a line here that gets as much protection. I don't know whether I could actually ever fully align it with CMIA, to be honest with you.
And I understand the background for CMIA. It is in part that there's a relationship, a patient-doctor relationship you're trying to preserve and protect, but it's also, I do think part of its background was the data that's being shared, the privacy information, doesn't go outside of that relationship. And so this is very similar. And I'm glad that you're still working on it. It sounds like a very tough nut to crack. And I think I hope that will happen. The second one has to just do with the opt-in issue that was raised as well. And I have to, just by preview, I don't find persuasive that, well, nobody reads them, so we shouldn't bother having them, because I just don't find that to be persuasive. But some other points were raised about the opt-in issue. I just wanted to hear your response.
Yeah, more than willing to work with the opposition on that opt-in. I think that is an area where we may be able to take some amendments if this moves forward that would clarify and provide greater security to the individual when they are choosing to opt in. I think there's a way to maybe get there.
So along the ideas that it's not worked in with the other disclosures that you get when you're setting up the device. It's something that's separate, perhaps, so it stands out more. So
the current the bill is currently written and amended. It says it's not a part of the original acceptance of terms and conditions. It has to be on a separate page. We may be able to find a way to provide even greater separation for that.
Additional comments or questions? Mr. Cooper, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon, for bringing this forward. Just a real quick question about the current version of the bill. It gives no consequences if the law is violated.
There are, as currently written, I mean, we haven't written this as like a misdemeanor, so it doesn't have any kind of a legal consequence, but it would allow for civil action at this point.
Okay, but no specific fine, just obviously where they can fine the civil court.
And that is something we're looking at as to whether there should be a fine and what it would be, but that's not in the bill as written at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Additional comments or questions? Let me begin by thanking the author for your work and also your team for working with our staff here. Also, I know that you've been through a number of iterations of the bill, and you spent a lot of time on this bill. So it's not an easy bill to muster. So I want to thank you for picking up that baton. And one of the fundamental differences between the proponents and the opponents, I guess, is the placement of the language itself. Whether we should place it under CMIA in the civil code versus the business and profession code, which is a completely separate chapter altogether. Now, we talked a little bit about the relationship as was posed by Ms. Baker, and you responded to that, obviously. And I think that that is a big piece of it, the relationship. What kind of relationship are we talking about, whether it is a doctor-patient relationship or is it a consumer versus a manufacturer relationship? Although, the data sometimes overlap both arenas, and that's what creating that difficulty or dilemma. And I think that, to the extent, ideally, the information would fit right in. Let's say if the piece of information that's being collected by these Fitbits or what have you would fall squarely, into CMIA, then I have no problem placing it there, because that seems to be the place to be. It does have all the remedies and very exhaustive list of remedies. For example, it includes negligence action and punitive damages and all that. But I also realized the fact that sometimes, there are differences between those two sets of data, which don't really entirely mesh. And that's the reason why I believe you created this, this completely new section, new chapter under the B&P code section. So I think that this is, I guess, moving in the right direction. And I think this is something that we need to tackle because out there's nothing that regulates, the information collected by these devices, either the federal level or the state level specifically. So I think, we're moving in the right direction. And I think that in light of what's been happening and in light of the fact that your willingness to work with all the stakeholders, as indicated by, your past work already in the last 2 weeks or so, I will support the bill, although as you know, I gave a non-reco originally, but I think based on what I've seen over the last 2 weeks, I like to support it and see it move forward, and I hope my colleagues will think the same, hope they will think the same way. So with that, I ask you to close, and then we'll take a vote. Go ahead.
Actually,
would you like to close?
I think you did a great close for me. So I would just ask for an aye vote and say thank you.
Great. Bills been moved and seconded. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
The motion is do pass. Chow?
Aye.
Chow, aye. Wilk? Baker? Not voting. Baker not voting. Calderon? Aye. Calderon, aye. Chang? Aye. Chang, aye. Cooper? Aye. Cooper, aye. DeBobne? Gatto? Aye. Gatto, aye. Gordon?
Aye.
Gordon, aye. Lowe?
Aye.
Lowe, aye. Olson?
Not voting.
Olson not voting.
Your bill is out. Congratulations. Thank you much. Next, we will go to Mr. Calderon. He's here. Oh.